In this new Ultimate Team series, I make the best team I believe possible, picking players from all eras of NBA history. It isn't just about how talented the teams are, but I'm also trying to build teams that would gel and execute well together. Today, we're looking at the Ultimate Knicks team. Before I get started, here are the rules you need to know. To build each franchise's ultimate team, I will be picking a starting 5, a second unit representing each position, and then 3 additional rotation players at any position I choose. In total, there will be 13 roster spots. It's worth mentioning that I will not simply be building these teams based on how talented each player is, but I'll also be factoring in how well these players would do together as teammates. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting at the point guard position is the 6'4" Hall of Famer Walt Frasier. In a franchise loaded with incredible point guards, Frasier is without question the best of the best. He was an NBA All-Star for 7 straight seasons with the team, and thanks to his solid scoring and facilitating, he was able to help the Knicks win 2 championships. In those 7 All-Star seasons, he averaged 21 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals on 49% shooting, which was especially impressive for a point guard in that era. What often isn't appreciated enough about this legend is the fact that he was one of the greatest two-way guards of all time, as he made a remarkable total of 7 All-Defense teams. Starting at the shooting guard spot is another legend from years past, Earl the Pearl Monroe. This 6'3" All-Star wasn't ever the fastest player on the court, but he was very crafty at getting to the rim and would regularly make difficult baskets in heavy traffic. He had a high offensive IQ, and with his pre-existing chemistry with Frasier, this duo will be an absolute problem for opposing defenses on the perimeter. Starting a small forward is one of the 75 greatest players in NBA history, Carmelo Anthony. I would argue that Melo's personal best was actually in Denver, but regardless, he was still an elite player in his time in New York. In the 2012 to 2013 season, he led the NBA in scoring, averaging nearly 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists on 45% shooting from the field. He was also hitting 38% of his three-point attempts that season. With Melo starting at the 3, he'll provide this squad with some solid floor spacing and with some clutch shot making to close out games. Starting at power forward is the 1970 MVP Willis Reed. This 6'10" big man is beloved and respected within the city of New York, as he's famous for pushing through an injury to help his team win the championship. He spent his entire career in New York and made 7 All-Star appearances while being an All-Defensive player in 1970. In his 7 All-Star years, he put up numbers of 20 points and 14 rebounds on 48% shooting from the field. Although he usually spent most of his time at the center spot, he did also spend some significant time at the 4, and he'll do well in that position for this squad, as he could run the floor and he was a solid mid-range jump shooter. The starting center is arguably the greatest player in Knicks history, Patrick Ewing. This 7-foot big man was an absolute force on both ends of the court, and at his best in 1990, he had a jaw-dropping average of 29 points, 11 rebounds, and a whopping 4 blocks, on a tremendous 55% shooting from the field. He was an 11-time All-Star who was regularly leading his team to be contenders in the Eastern Conference. Although he could play bully ball in the paint, he was also known for his very soft touch on his mid-range jumper, and this team will greatly benefit from both of those skills. Now on to the second unit. The backup point guard is the 6'5" star Michael Ray Richardson. He was a remarkably fast combo guard who could finish at the rim, but who could also make flashy passes for his teammates. He wasted no time having an impact in New York, and in just his second season in the league, he was already a monster statistically, as he led the NBA in assists and steals in the same season, while averaging 15 points and 7 rebounds. He was a 3-time All-Star in New York, and he won 3 steals titles, which helped him secure his 2 All-Defense Team selections. Honestly, Walt Frasier better watch his back, because Sugar Ray Richardson was definitely good enough to eat into his minutes. The backup shooting guard is the 1990 sniper Allen Houston. He was a two-time All-Star in New York, and you could never give this 6'6" wing any space, or he would penalize you for it. At his best, he was averaging north of 20 points per game while hitting better than 40% of his three-point attempts. He'll definitely be a player mixed in with several different rotations to take advantage of his floor spacing abilities. The backup small forward is one of the most explosive players in Knicks history, Bernard King. I honestly went back and forth whether I should start Melo or Bernard King, and ultimately I went with Melo for the simple fact that he was a better three-point shooter, and the rest of the starting unit desperately needed that help. This 6'7" beast was a strong force in transition, who played the game with a driven and angry attitude. He also had elite footwork and a solid mid-range jumper. At his best in 1985, he averaged 33 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists on a stellar 53% shooting from the field. The backup power forward is yet another Hall of Famer, Dave DeBusschere. Back in the early to mid-70s, this 6'6" legend did a little bit of everything for the Knicks. For a power forward in that era, he was a tremendous perimeter shooter who absolutely loved to run the pick and pop. He was a consistent double-double player as he made 5 straight All-Star teams, but where he truly shined was his elite smothering defense, as he made a total of 6 All-Defense teams throughout his career. The backup center is the 6'9" legend Bob Macadoo. As a somewhat undersized center, Macadoo relied heavily upon the finesse style of his game. He was incredibly skilled and intelligent offensively. He didn't spend a tremendous amount of time in New York, but truthfully, he didn't have to in order to have a huge impact. For example, in the 1978 season, he averaged 26 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists on 52% shooting. Now onto the 3 rotation players. The first is a guy who helped his Knicks get to the NBA Finals in 1999, Latrell Sprewell. This 6'5" wing was a solid two-way player who could be the best player on the court either offensively or defensively on any given night. In the past, he has had chemistry issues with his teammates and with his coaches, but his talent is worth a spot, even if he occasionally chokes out his coach. The second rotation player is the power forward / center, Amari Stmy. Having a player this talented being reduced to simply a rotation player does seem a little bit crazy, but the Knicks are absurdly stacked when it comes to big men, so it kinda is what it is. Although he was at his best in Phoenix, he was still a monster in his first season in New York, as he averaged 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks on 50% shooting from the field. The third rotation spot, and the final spot on this roster, goes to the star shooting guard throughout the 90s, John Starks. This 6'5" player was very athletically gifted, and was also a big game performer for New York. He was an All-Star in 1994 when he averaged 19 points, 6 assists, and 3 rebounds on 42% shooting. He was also an NBA All-Defender, which keeps up the theme of this roster being filled with two-way ballers. So here's a final look at the complete roster of this Ultimate Knicks team. This team is elite on both ends of the court, and there is no shortage of playoff experience on the roster. Do you think this squad is a top 4 seed in the Ultimate East? Let me know your opinion. Also, here is my list of honorable mentions. Should any of these players have made the roster instead? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.